Hey, everybody. Welcome to another Three Nails Information Security Podcast. I am Vincent, founder of Three Nails InfoSec. Three Nails is a boutique cybersecurity firm who focuses primarily on offensive security services. Today, we are joined by Elyson de Cruz, who is a CISO at IBR. Elyson, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hey, Vince. Thanks. Elyson de Cruz. Like Vince said, I'm a CISO at IBR. Imagine, Believe, Realize. We're a defense contractor. We're a software development company specializing in government agencies. I got into cybersecurity a very, very long time ago, and eventually, landed a job with IBR where I've been around for about 3 years.
Yeah, thank you for coming on the podcast. Just for the audience sake, what do you like to do in your free time besides computers?
quite a bit. I shouldn't say quite a bit. I used to ride motorcycles, and then I got married. Probably not a good idea. Then we had kids. Definitely the motorcycle's parked in the back. I don't do that anymore. It's a fairly big motorcycle, like 1,000 cc. So she doesn't let me do that anymore. But aside from that, other hobbies. The family, we like to travel. So we lived in Germany for about 11 years. Seen just good parts of Germany, right? All over Europe, Eastern Europe, Western Europe, North, South. It was a great time. And since I live in Orlando, right, there's the theme parks. We do that as well. Outside of that, gotta keep it busy. I got 2 kids, so I gotta attend all the, the events, right? Winter parties, or I think they call it winter. Winter showcase. And then my kids play, sports, so I gotta do that as well. So thanks for asking.
Yeah, excellent. Family man. I'm also a family man.
Yeah, I heard, right? 4 kids.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yep. Keep me busy. So, well, awesome. Let's jump into some questions. So, I think I want to just sort of touch on government for a few minutes and talk about some of the cybersecurity challenges that are unique to government. You have a lot of experience there. I'm curious how you feel like government can address cybersecurity challenges effectively.
Yeah. So government, if you've been around government, you either have this feeling of like government's awesome, or a feeling of like we're kind of lagging, with the tech world, the tech giants, right? And in my case, I used to joke that if I had a magic ball working inside government, we could predict the in 1 to 3 years because it's already happening in industry. But lately, it's not as bad. We're still lagging, but I think not as what I had felt before. But there's definitely a lot of challenges when it comes to the GRC space, right? So the governance, risk, and compliance space. We're very meticulous, as you could probably imagine, in the government. We have regulations. We're fairly regulated, right? So we do FISMA. We have to address even on my side now, the government side. In December 16th, they just passed CMMC, so that's a big item that we need to check off. But ideally, those things, if there's ways to kind of leverage these newer technologies that we have for automation, orchestration, and really having this traceability that we can kind of leverage for some of the manual tasks that we do in GRC, that'd be awesome. The other things that also seemingly that I see impacts us in terms of speed of innovation in government is the intent for us to actually secure and is still a little bit manual, very, very needed, right? So we definitely need to secure. We got a lot of standards on how to secure our government organizations, but for the most part, I see a lot of opportunities to actually, leverage automation, orchestration, even with AI agents in the future.
Well, it was a little bit hard to understand it. What part did you say was a little bit more manual still?
A little bit more manual when it comes to like policies and procedures, entering the evidence, doing what we call in the government space security technical implementations guide stage. Just because there's some automation, but there's not necessarily full automation. So that would I know there's initiatives going on that actually tries to make it a little bit faster, but for the most part, most of government still kind of rely on some manual effort that I think is ripe for innovation.
Cool. Let's zoom in on automation for a second. So when you say automation, when I think of it as a computer nerd,
Yeah,
I'm thinking
yeah,
of scripting, coding, doing
absolutely.
some sort of
Yeah,
process.
yeah.
Tell us what that means in the GRC space exactly.
So in the GRC space in general, we have policies and procedures, right? You got to codify the policies for the organizations or any organization supporting, whether it be an agency level or maybe a policy procedure for a system that you're supporting. You also have technical items, right? Meaning the technical implementations of certain things, and then you have physical items. But on the technical items, I think we have these things called the STIGs, which basically are nitty-gritty hardening guidelines on how to harden a particular system, whether it be an OS, an application, a database. But for the most part, these guidelines are written in such a way that you have to look at them, read them, and then configure them. Right now, there are automation in place, right, like Terraform infrastructure as code, Ansible configuration drift management, that we do to actually deploy certain configuration, but they're not quite as lined up or automated in such a way where we could take that configuration and plug that in into a GRC platform. We could actually line up and answer the compliance level of the governance, risk, and compliance requirements in the DoD, RMF. In some organizations, it could be ISO based, and so on and so forth. So in my mind, if I was going to do it from a technical lens, so you're thinking about super technical, right? So if you're looking at it from a hardening requirement and operating system, and you're going down the line of actually hardening, whether it be password complexity, certificate-based authentication, do what you will, right? Having a file format that you can actually scrape and based on the configurations of that particular system, and then feed that into maybe a JSON file, whatever actual file format that you have, and then say, okay, this are aligned with these governance, risk, and compliance requirements, and feed that in a near real-time basis, so you don't have that manual entry plugging in saying I'm compliant. It also alleviates the room for error as soon as we perfect that, right? So that's one. There's probably other ideas out there, but that's one that I could see that our cybersecurity analysts out there, our cybersecurity engineers, are still relying on these manual STIG checks and spending a lot of time copying the configuration, making it a note of it, and passing it on as evidence to whoever the auditor is, which basically could be shrunk down and an opportunity for not only for faster compliance, but near real-time compliance.
Kind of makes me feel like these STIGs are probably changing a lot.
Yeah.
I mean, with the new tech, maybe not a lot, but semi-frequently. I mean, how are they changing?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you are in the DoD space, you probably already understand what I'm talking about. So in the DoD space, they are updated, not all of them, but most of them are updated quarterly. So they get updated quarterly. There's support from the vendors. So for example, if you're a Red Hat shop, Red Hat actually collaborates with the Defense Information Systems Agency, and then they kind of say, okay, these are the hardening guides that we believe are needed to secure or harden our system. On top of that, they also kind of break that down where you have number one, category ones, which is like super critical that you harden it this way, two, medium, and then threes are lows. And then you get score base out of that. I think there's over 200 plus checks on a Red Hat operating system last time I checked. And they could be fairly manual. So the good thing for the Red Hat is there's something called a security compliance checker that automates some of the checks. But even after the check, you still have to grab the results and plug it into another system to make it look compliant. Ideally, what we could probably see for an innovation standpoint is have that a conduit to actually get that result and have that embedded into the actual GRC platform.
Sounds super powerful as well. Sounds like if it's built
right. Be nice, man. I've been waiting for it to happen. So for all the startups out there, if you got a great idea, I'm sure that DoD is willing to hear it.
Well said. Yeah. I want to talk about sort of in the same vein as like STIGs changing dynamically over time. It kind of reminds me of like creating like a modular framework to some degree, like moving parts, replacing parts, Do you feel like creating a modular cybersecurity framework or adhering to any current existing framework that's sort of modular, so to speak, do you think that that could benefit the industry or the
Yeah,
government space?
yeah. So modular in such a way that, you know, when we build certain things, we don't want to have tight coupling. It's kind of like building your Lego, right? If you try to make it a mold, then trying to rearrange and adapt to the changing complexities of the environment becomes super hard. Not because you got to chip away at certain things and add something, right? But making it modular, just kind of like if you were in industry and you're a builder, like Terraform, right? You design your Terraform script modularly, right? You look at it either by network, by security. If you're building code, you also look at it from decoupling code from certain areas. So you have APIs calling APIs. So ideally, if we think of GRC in cybersecurity practices from a process standpoint, where we could actually decouple certain things, maybe organizationally or process-wise, so that we can detach and attach new technologies as needed, but maintain the policies that align with that, will allow us to kind of function semi to how, you know, general development processes are thought about. You know, talk about being modular code, you know, service-oriented architectures. Ideally, if we can take those concepts, just slightly mold them up enough so that we can actually look at policies, process, procedures, and decouple certain things, so you can actually attach new technologies and still align it with the intent of policy. Easier said than done, but I think we're gonna allow our organizations, from a governance perspective, to maintain the intent of the policies and procedures while adapting to the innovation at hand.
Okay. I'm a big person on practicality. What does it look like practically to implement automation to the degree where a concern I've had of a guest in the past is that government space seems to sort of be lagging behind the rest of the rest of the world surrounding cybersecurity, probably for a lot of different reasons. But to me, it sounds like being able to implement automation in GRC could actually help, you know, resolve part of that issue, like that they're, you know, if they have the STIGs aligning with the industry best standard and best practices, and it's just automatically upgrading, updating, like.
I mean, there's definitely been a lot of efforts in the DoD and even probably other government agencies to have these connectors, what I call in general, like connectors, to make sure you can feed the data in and get you a high level picture of what your, you know, cybersecurity posture is. And I think what generally becomes challenging is curating that data so that you can actually make decisions off of it, right? Because what's really happened is if you fill the onion, right, you will always see problems. You will, you know, if you dig deep enough, you will see problems. And in some governance, you know, risk and compliance shops, what they'll do is they'll give you a snapshot of what it looks like. And that snapshot that they upload into, you know, systems like GRC systems, whether that be a governance system like Exacta or EMAS or name your flavor, right? It's just a snapshot in time of the compliance level of that system, which means that at any given point in time, the auditor is approving the system, is just giving you an artifact that potentially is compliant at the time of testing. But because of the dynamic nature of cybersecurity, what you really need is something that you can get confidence that it is still the case when you approved it, right? And the DoD is looking at it from a continuous ATO process. So they're looking at it from what they call CATO, where you can continuously get an authority to operate. But I believe in order for that to truly be something where we can get confidence that we are continuously confident that this system is still secure, continuously over time without just having in-between checks like annually or every 3 years, is to have the near real-time feeds that provides security posture and really just be in a form or fashion, be just honest about the security posture of the network and really have decision points that could say, I or somebody of authority can make a decision on whether the system is still secure or not secure. What I've seen so far, though, is the DoD is somewhat risk averse in certain areas where they see red, bad, no go, right? Which is, we're kind of trained with stoplights. So But if you look at it in tech, especially on innovative technologies, they look at it as a decision based on the outcomes that they're trying to get. And I think this near real-time feeds gets the training out of just being hesitant to approve systems that had vulnerabilities, because in reality, whether you see it or you don't, it's there, right? So you might as well see it and make a decision based on what actually is reality on the ground, and not see it and be able to sleep at night, but that really know what's going on.
Okay. Where does pen testing kind of play a role in that, or does it at all in that process? I mean,
I'm a big fan of pen testing. I think I kind of mentioned to you back a while ago. The CISOs like me or other organizations use pen testing on multiple different fronts. So any new CISO who really wants to get a definitive idea of how vulnerable the environment is, and to get the buy-in from a board or from executive suite, would generally hire a pen tester to say, hey, this is the lay of the land. I just got here. So for me, it's actually a good baseline to get a gap analysis of what actually could be if given a particular pen test. Other organizations might also want to withhold running a pen test because they've probably been there quite a while, and they're going to be accountable for whatever that pen test is, meaning that their security practices were not robust enough to withstand a pen test. There's always values in pen tests. I've been in organizations who've actually done pen tests annually, right? It's a full-on red team, and then we kind of go through the blue teams and red teams and become, like a collaborative approach. Sometimes we call it a green team or a purple team, to kind of really refine some of the gaps and the things that we see, right? Because ideally, what we want to get out of pen testing is actionable outcomes, so we can say, now we're a little bit better, let's do it again, right? So there's definitely a lot of value in pen testing. What I do see sometimes is there's a hesitancy to do pen tests because it derails delivery. So can you imagine a software development company, right, or software development organization? They have been contracted to do deliveries, let's just say for hypothetical purposes, every quarter, right? And a new organization is hired external to the software development organization and says, I want you to do pen testing on the test environment, production environment, wherever the case may be. But they didn't really account for that expectation management that the delivery is still going to be on track. So all stakeholders are still thinking delivery is on track to X day. Here comes the pen test. The pen test identifies certain things. And depending on the maturity of the stakeholders in our organization, they're either just going to see black and white, high, critical, slows, moderate, or they're going to see, is this high, critical, slows, and moderate? Can we peel back and see what is the actual intent of this vulnerability, and is the vulnerability really such that it is going to lose, confidentiality, integrity, and availability for our stuff, right? Because as you know, not all CVEs are created equal, right? So just because a CVE is a 9 doesn't necessarily mean it's a 9 for you, right? Doesn't mean it's a 9 for your organization or your application or system. But historically, the way we've looked at CVEs is based on a number. We make a decision. And ideally, hopefully, someday we get to the point where we actually peel that onion and say, is a 9 and a 9 given the context of what we're playing with, right? So, but yeah, pen test, definitely a big fan.
And that's a good distinction to make, because I think like a lot of companies, speaking from experience, will kind of, companies will, or pen test firms will sell a pen test, but really be doing a vuln scan or something very mild. And so those risk ratings that are associated with the vuln scan are oftentimes inaccurate because it's not the right set of eyes looking at them, helping them properly score. So similar to what you're saying, like things that are a 9 but may not be a 9 to you, a lot of it we try to surround it around the business like impact. Like, is this truly a critical, or did we just hack your lunch server menu? Lunch menu server. Like, what is the true risk here? So, with in cybersecurity, I want to talk about resilience a little bit, because pen testing to me is like, it's a process that should be done by every company, which helps build more resilience. To me, it allows a company to identify the vulnerabilities, validate security controls. Like you said, purple teaming, it helps, see where they are at with incident response. It does a lot of different functions. So in your opinion, how do companies truly achieve resilience in cybersecurity? I know it's a broad question, but
yeah, it's a very broad question. The funny thing you mentioned that is I'm actually working with somebody. We're 80% of the book out of the way, and the book is about information risk, business resilience, and innovation, speed of innovation for small business. Not a plug, but it's kind of like funny that you mentioned about resilience.
Okay. What's the name of it? Is it done, or when's it going to be done?
We're trying to get it done, but as you can see, I'm doing this instead of doing this.
I'll take it. Okay.
So, yeah, so 30% done. But yeah, we're excited to kind of get it out there. I know it's needed at small business organizations, right? We're taking the lessons learned from large business organizations like the DoD, where I worked at, USUCOM. The good thing about the DoD is they've truly perfected certain areas of resilience, right? So imagine the DoD planning for a campaign, going into some other country, we've known those countries, and making sure that we're still able to communicate amongst the chaos, amongst the bombs getting dropped. So we've built out this resilient infrastructure, and we're trying to convert that on what that really means for a business, because not all businesses are in the business of war, right? But one of the things that I've learned is that because these manuals are pre-written in such a way that they're organically transferable enough to areas in business, meaning that doing your tabletop exercise is something that most organizations will do. Having pen tests, having incident response, planned out, the escalation, having disaster recoveries and continuing to have operations plans. But one of the key things really is understanding what that business is all about, right? Like you said, if the business is in the dental service industry, right, stealing advertisements, flyers and stuff on a drive, while concerning, they got there, but as long as it's segregated, the impact is actually fairly low, right? Meaning that, okay, cool, somebody else got some my marketing campaigns, and now they know more about my dentist business, right? So one of the things that we were kind of thinking about in the book was that, okay, defining the information risk and the information value and the risk of being compromised and what that means for the business, right? And it's really kind of deeply rooted from our old way of thinking, which we thought about, like, we need to understand the value of the information and how much we protect that information. But right now, we're also thinking about other ways of defining resilience, because other organizations are thinking about it not only from information value, but operational technologies, right? So things that are actually required to continually operate because they provide a critical service either to the community or our nation, right? So critical infrastructure. The value of reading a meter off of a solar panel and knowing what that value is less disastrous than actually taking out the whole solar panel because you cut them off from an IoT perspective. So building resilience is closely tied to the business mission and the business outcomes that business is there for, right? Because just in my mind, you stop being a business when you stop providing value. So if it's tied, if what it is that's making you a business that provides you value, you need to protect that, and that's really a definition that every business needs to have before they start thinking about words like business resilience.
Really well said. Yeah, definitely got me thinking here for sure. Protecting the primary function. I spoke to a gentleman this past week about he made a comment that I found really impactful, which is like, if you hack my company or my network, like, I don't care. Like, if you get access, I don't care, because what I care about is, are we able to basically silo you off to frustrate you enough, to get you to leave or to quit. But also, like, we trust our architecture enough that, it's going to be a real challenge for you to get to where you want to be. And if you're a nation state, it's a really sophisticated actor, maybe it's possible. But I just thought it was really interesting that a company with a more mature cybersecurity posture could say something along the lines of, somebody's going to click a link. By nature, every single person using a computer clicks links every single day. And so we're not going to stop people from completely clicking the wrong link, I just thought that was a valid point.
Yeah,
So,
I like that comment about operational resilience, right? So basically making sure that the business survives. But the caveat to that is the flip side of that is we need to be able to be cognizant of that to say, what are the regulatory measures that we need to abide by, right? And this is really where things like, if you're a PCI, if you're affected by PCI, if you're affected by HIPAA, if you're affected by any other regulation, there's another form of compliance that you need to understand that while your business will survive if piece information is compromised, right? Your reputation might not, right? So that's a different story, right? So that's important as well. So, and also you're going to be right for lawsuits. So there's a balance between operational resilience that allows your organization to kind of continue moving business, providing the business value, maintaining that business value, and even having a trajectory of competitive advantage. And then also wearing the hat of a compliance officer that says, how many lawsuits are we going to face? Do we need, how big of a cyber insurance do we need? And what is it really being a good steward of our customers' need, right? And that means PII protection and so on. So there's definitely a lot to think about. But yeah, ideally, you want to think about it in these terms as a whole, and deconstruct them, see what it means for you as a business.
Beautiful. I'm sure you'll speak much more in detail in your book. I hope you get around to finishing that, because that sounds like it'll be.
Man, we're almost there. But I'm just saying that last month. So my buddy David Cruz, when he sees this, he's like, dude, listen.
Nice. Yeah, I have a good friend. His name is ChatGPT. Might help you get 20% the rest of the way.
You know, your buddy named ChatGPT might know my other friend, Gemini.
No kidding, man. Yeah. Well, Elyson, I really appreciate having you on, man. Thank you so much for coming on. If people want to follow you or reach out, is LinkedIn sort of the best source to keep tabs on you? Okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. And I recommend anybody hearing and listening to this podcast, give Elyson a follow. Watch out for his book. Do you have a title for it yet, or is it kind of?
No, not yet, but it's coming out. I have to kind of work it out with my buddy Gemini and ChatGPT.
Hey, at some point that's going to become our normal. It's funny, but I don't know, it's almost unavoidable. I don't know. Awesome. Well, thank you, Elyson, for joining today, man. And I look forward to speaking with you more in the future. Thanks for coming on today.
Thanks, Liz. Appreciate you, brother.
All righty.